We're here for, if you haven't noticed, the Valentine's Day edition. Catherine's got the sunglasses with her hearts.
Yeah.
I've got little hearts here and
I'm
a
doing
necklace of hearts.
a necklace of hearts. Yes, I'm doing the two glasses. It's all the rage with the youngins.
Yeah, that's right. And you may notice that this is not the usual location
No.
at Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor.
No, we switched it up today.
Yeah, Catherine has hurt her back, so she can't move very far off the couch.
Yeah.
So we're at her couch.
My couch. My place.
But we're doing Reddit reactions,
Yes.
Valentine's Day themed. So if you have any horror stories.
I'm sure lots of people have horror stories. I feel like I have fewer horror stories because I was with Ayanda for so, at a young age. But I've heard other people's horror stories. And
Well, dating's and getting together, whether it be just for benefits, whether it be for love, whatever it might be.
situationship, as they call it these days.
Yeah, it can be tricky. I mean, you're dealing with a very complicated emotion. You know,
It's true.
because sometimes there's someone that likes someone, and sometimes there's someone that loves the person, but they're not reciprocating that.
Yeah, there's not everyone's on the same page emotionally, or have the same expectations of what they want out of something.
Yeah, and people expect the romance of a rom-com.
I do think that. Yeah, you see that a lot in my. I like to read a lot, and I particularly like to read romance. And so I'm on quite a few Facebook groups for different genres of books for romance. But you do see some people. There was just one post where does anyone ever feel like the strong passion they write about in books? And it's well, I mean, it is also fiction.
Yeah.
And they do write every time someone has penetrative sex, they always seem to have an super easy with no issue.
Yeah.
So I'm I feel
There's no clumsiness.
there's no awkwardness, there's no clumsiness. I mean, it depends on the book and what you're reading, but it's meant to be it's fantasy, it's fiction.
Yeah, it's fantasy for a reason.
Doesn't mean you're not gonna have moments of those, but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think people they write it as it's a snippet of a book. It's not a lifetime with these characters that you're reading.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
I've had snippets in my life that are very romantic, very much like the rain and the lovers coming together, and
it does feel like a romance movie book or whatever in those moments.
But they're just moments, right?
Yeah, they're
and
moments or
they're
times
not
in your life,
all the time.
Yeah, it's more like phases of moments or phases depending on the situation.
Yeah,
Especially if you're in a really long term relationship. I think people
it ebbs and flows.
It ebbs
like
and flows.
Everything else.
I think a lot of people think it has to be. I think especially depending on how long you've been with your partner.
Yeah.
Assume that it's always going to be lovey-dovey, and maybe there are some people because there's some people it's like that all the time, and that's wonderful for you. But I think the reality is a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and again, it depends, right? I've been married 36 years, I think.
36, yeah,
something around there. My husband knows better than I do.
I was gonna say I usually remembers better than I do too.
And you're fairly long term. You're in the double digits.
Yeah,
right?
we're 17 years this year.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
I mean, significant-ish for my age at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, not everyone finds that long term. I also am I get why I don't like the term I have a failed marriage, because you didn't fail at it. For today, for this generation so far, we are living way longer than other generations did, and we're not at the same there was disease that couldn't be treated. There was a lot of war that went on before, and not as much today in the same way that, boots on the ground and men fighting men.
What's going on now these days?
Yeah, but I mean, with the, men lining up and, just aiming and shooting. Or, I was watching Vikings the other night, the way they invaded England, right? And very gruesome and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, there's medicine has advanced, so we're not dying
Yeah.
of the same kinds of diseases. We've eradicated a few
There's
of them.
vaccines for a lot of stuff.
Exactly. And so now, like before, you could be a widow at 20, at 30, at 40.
Yeah.
And yes, you loved the guy, or maybe you didn't. There was a lot more arranged
Just
marriages.
say, yeah, a lot more like you kind of have to get married because you were often, especially as a woman, treated as property, so you had no claims on anything unless you had a husband. So it was kind of also just a simple means of survival.
Yeah, a means of survival. And if you were widowed before the age of 40, your property wasn't yours.
I remember you telling me that, which is such BS.
Yeah, it wasn't until if you got widowed and you were 40 or over, then you could claim your husband's lands and keep them and stuff like that. But if you were younger, which was very common, you had to find another husband.
Well, yeah, how often was someone living to 40s? And let's be honest, if a woman was single, she would live longer. So she would live to her 40s if she didn't have to get married.
Yeah, exactly.
Women live longer.
For the most part.
For the most part.
There's exceptions to every rule.
Exactly. But most of the time they say women live longer and have longer, healthier lives when they're not married. I'm not going to say that all the time because I love my husband and he is a good support.
I love my husband, but there are days where it's like, if you weren't here,
I don't have those moments, but I do have moments of like.
Well, I think you have it when you're a little bit older.
Probably. When you're more done with their habits that you thought
having your husband around is great with the kids, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an extra pair of hands, an extra brain, an extra mouth to yell at the children. Just say, get your ass out here.
Yeah.
Get ready for school. But, once the children leave, then it's kind of like, I love my husband, of course, but there are days where I look at him and go,
I wish he was out.
When are you going to grow up and move out?
Apparently you also have a third child you never knew about. Yeah. And he's just never laughed.
But we get along well. Like we like each other's company. We can shorthand a lot of things, right?
Well, that's good. I think companionship is often like people forget about just general companionship.
Yeah, and as you know, I do a lot of love readings because I'm a tarot card reader.
Yeah,
and if you're on this channel, you know that. Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, if you've been watching her for any length of time,
I'm a tarot card reader.
She's like a vegan. I'm a tarot reader. I tarot read. No, I'm joking. I'm just joking. She's not like that.
But it's funny because I do get surprisingly a lot of older people looking for love. Some. But some are just I'm looking for a companion.
Yeah.
Someone I can do stuff with.
That's fair.
Because, there's not a lot of stuff you can do alone. You can, but it gets dull.
It can be fun awkward to do stuff with like someone else. I just saw this thing that was saying there was like a study done. And it was saying the study was done like you would be at the end of at the bottom of or base of a mountain or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to determine how steep it was.
Oh, okay.
And those that did it on their own assumed it was a lot steeper than those who had a friend with them.
Oh, okay.
And they'd say it would appear a lot less steeper, especially depending on how the friendship too, how close. If they'd known each other for a long time, the friendship was really deep. Then it would look it looked even less steep. And so it's like life is easier when you have someone. Yeah. That you can kind of that's there
for that emotional support
you. Yeah, that you can lean, that you both can lean on each other. That okay, I'm not facing all of this on my own. I have to make all these decisions on my own.
Or you can soundboard off of and things like that. Yeah, and that's a very, very important aspect. I mean, especially considering you and I are natural introverts.
Yeah,
and I can spend lots of time alone.
Yeah, I can too.
And it doesn't really bother me. I mean. Yes, I notice if I've been for a length of time that I become a chatty Cathy.
Oh, 100%. I definitely know when I've closeted myself for too long. Even though I like it, I'm like, okay, but it's not actually that good for me. Even though I like it, it's not good for me.
You kind of have to force yourself back out into the world. And because I love tarot reading, and tarot reading is really a way of having a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Because you're having a conversation with the person and helping them look at their situation with not only their own eyes, but with a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, I'm seeing a new perspective,
a
or
new
heard in a different way
perspective.
that they didn't think of.
And, like, I don't have any skin in the game. So
Yeah.
I have...
You're very unbiased and just, or like at least like no
Yeah.
way
And,
of.
and I do believe that I channel messages.
Yeah.
Right? Because I hear them. And that's called clair audios. There's 5 different clairs. So there's a clair of each sense.
Clairs. Oh my god.
So clair audio is mine. I used to do, and I do sometimes still do clair visual. So as a kid, I would see pictures of. I told my mom, I see the pictures of what's in so and so's head.
That's so strange.
Yeah, and I one thing I'm really good at is knowing when someone is really into somebody. I'm your best wingman ever. And I have lots of stories to back it up. But and Kayla, I talked about it on one of our podcasts, and she said you should offer that as a service.
Honestly, you should. It's just that, I feel like that would be a good seller.
I'll go on the first dates with you guys, and yeah, he's just not that into you, or nope, she's not buying it, and that sort of thing, right? So so we're here to do some Reddit reactions.
Yeah, we got a little off tangent.
Yeah,
I'm shocked by it.
But we're talking about love.
We're talking about love
and companionship and all that good stuff.
And I think it's easier to talk about when you've been in a relationship too, or like not looking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not looking. I don't know about you.
No, I'm not looking, but my options are there. No, just kidding.
Whoa.
No, I find when you're not looking, people tend to hit on you more. I think it's because, I don't know, because you're not looking, I don't know, like you're unavailable.
And then all of a sudden the forbidden fruit.
That's right. I'm the forbidden fruit.
I feel like I'm oblivious to anyone that's ever
I'm usually pretty oblivious. My friend Jake used to say I'm a non-noticer.
Yeah.
Because we'd walk out of a store and she'd be like, that guy was totally flirting with you. I'm like, what? It's like, but yeah, and I get flirted with by both sexes.
If I did, I wouldn't notice. The only reason I and are together was because he was so blunt.
Well, and that's what I found too.
Oh, do you like me?
Men are actually more subtle with me in flirting. The handful of lesbians that have flirted with me were very blunt.
Very blunt and forward, were they?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, so there was no missing it for me. It wasn't like, but men, I think, in my experience, have been more subtle.
Like, oh, are you?
Maybe because they're like, maybe because they're fearful of the rejection. Maybe they're fearful, or they don't want you to take offense.
Or maybe they
like, how dare you
assume you're taken? I guess.
Yeah, sir, that's highly inappropriate.
I don't know. I think I purposely put out energy when people are around me. Although people talk to me anyways, which is really annoying. But I very much try. I try to...
We both have that, where people will just come up to us and dump everything.
And mentally, I exhibit, don't talk to me. But then when I'm outward, I'm like, because I can't, I'm too polite, so I'm smiling at everyone. I'm like, oh my God. But in my head, I'm like, just don't look at me.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not... Whatever's in my head versus what comes out is totally different. It's the reverse of bitch face. Like, I'm happy face, but inside I'm like, just don't talk to me.
I've been told that too, because I don't have necessarily a resting bitch face.
I don't think I do.
Because people have often said to me, you're very approachable. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, again, my spirit animal is the panda, right?
So
and I'm soft.
Approachable.
Yeah, I'm soft and round and I fall down a lot. And this is why I have the excess weight, because a skinny panda is not a good looking panda. Panda bears.
I feel like a skinny panda is really weird. That's like horror film.
Yeah, that would be weird, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Some of us are gazelles and some of us are panda bears.
No, we are not the gazelles. Let's just put that out there. Not gazelles.
I'm definitely a panda bear.
I'm panda bear plus 1. plus 2. I'm 2 panda bears. I'm happy with.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of rounder animals, like there's hippos and
hippos. I love hippos.
Yeah.
I like them big. I like them chunky. That's right. I feel like I must
Pigs are bigger animals.
I feel like I must have an approachable face like you, because people will like The best thing was getting my driver's license and not having to take the bus, because people would talk to me on the bus all the time, and I would be like, have my book, I'd have my headphones on,
and they still like,
and they would still like, even when I'm walking, I'll have my headphones in, and then someone will stop me, and I'm like, why are you stopping me?
yeah.
And I'm like, did I say, like, please talk to me?
Yeah.
I really want attention.
Well, that's how we got Murphy, right? The lady just walked up to me in a street and handed him to me.
I don't know what it is.
And if it had been you there, she probably would have handed it to you.
I don't know what people do. People have told me their life stories. I went to get Lucy her boots one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like asking for help, because that means people talk to me. So I will do everything on my power just to find it.
Yeah.
And then this person was like, realized I was looking, she's like, well, can I help you find something? I was like, oh, fuck, do I ask or not?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just looking for boots for my daughter in this size. She's like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, okay, great. She shows me all the options. I'm like, this is great. This is going so smoothly. And I thought she's going to go walk away because I've already found an option.
Yeah.
She stays with me for 15 minutes and tells me her whole damn life story. And I was like, and I'm too nice. I'm like, oh yeah, that must be really hard. That must be difficult. And I'm like, I just want to get out of here. I want to go. But I'm like too nice to be like, leave me alone. Yeah.
Well, that happened to me in Value Village too, where it was like this woman walked up to me. And in Value Village, my husband and I both love to thrift, right? So
I'm feeling the itch to thrift myself.
Yeah, and you know, like, he thrifts a little faster than I do because he doesn't have as many sections of the store.
I like to look at all the sections.
I like to look at quite a few.
Might find.
Exactly. So this lady stops me for no reason and dumps her entire life story. How
so many times that happened.
Her daughter's just getting out of rehab and she's very worried about her. And she's like, and alcoholism runs in their family. And, and she just went on and on and on. And I was just like, oh, that's so sad, and la la la, right? And my husband finally came up and got me, and he's like, well, do you know her? I'm like, no, I've never met her before in my life. He's like, she's not a client of yours? I'm like, no.
I don't know this
Normally, I would charge for her to talk that long to me.
It's like, they just trauma dump on me, and I'm like, what the beep?
Yeah.
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
People, even cashiers, will then be like, all the time, I'm like, I was just trying to cash out. And like, I'm trying to be friendly.
I just want my milk and eggs and go home.
You know, I always try and treat people nicely because as someone who's done retail and done cashier and different things like that, I always try and be generally polite. Same with Ian. He's always been like the type of person who's like, oh, how's your shift going? How's your day going? Like, he always, like, we always,
my dad was like that. He had the gift of the gab.
Yeah. I don't know if Ian does the gift of the gab, but he's just very good at asking. He's good at asking people questions and, like, very much, I guess, humanizing them.
Yeah, my dad was like that. And my dad would openly dig deeper.
Ian doesn't try and dig too deep.
Like, because I went into a gas station one time. My dad had gone in. He was driving me somewhere. He did the pumping of the gas and went in to pay it. Back in the days before.
You could do.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, he'd probably go in anyway.
I was going to say, he wouldn't do that. He'd be like, I'd rather go in.
So he went in, and he's talking to the cashier. And I go in because he's been in there a while.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, Dad, we got to go. And he's like, oh, okay, well, this is so-and-so. And her mother does this and her father does that. And she's from this place. And I'm like, you got that in a 10-minute conversation?
Yeah.
I mean, he was very good at what he did, right? Yeah. So he was a children's aid worker, and he was one of the good ones. I know a lot of people have a lot of sort of bad taste in their mouth.
I mean, it's valid. There's a lot of validity in that.
Yeah.
So fair enough. But they're not, I mean,
but he was one of the good ones.
Yeah, just like anything, there's not all of them are.
Yes, exactly. Like everything else, like cops, doctors, nurses, all that kind of stuff. There are good ones. There's bad ones and there's a lot of good ones, and hopefully more of the good ones. But anyways, he like I said, he was one of the good ones. And what he was really good at is getting to the point of the like what's going on here, right? Because again, he's going into a home where suspected abuse or neglect is, and he's having to talk to these parents who are probably on the defensive
already,
and he has to sort of break down those walls
and get you to talk. And
exactly. And my dad looked like a living teddy bear.
Basically. He looked like the most like least harmful person on the planet.
Absolutely. So people opened up really fast to
Like,
him.
yeah.
His nickname was Dangerous Dan because he would take on anybody. Like he there was one time where he had to go to the hospital and this woman had repetitive children addicted to crack, and
Oh,
she
that's
would
terrible.
immediately neglect them right out of the gate, right? So it was under court orders that as soon as she dropped that kid,
The kid was taken.
yeah, and he was right there in the birthing room, and this is
All
mine.
right, see you later.
And he's walked to the back of strip clubs, and one baby he took was soaked in urine.
Oh my god.
Because the mother was bringing it to work, but neglecting it even at work. And
oh my god.
so
yeah.
so he just walked in like there was no tomorrow, and yoink.
Well, also I could see him being someone that people just easily ignore. So he probably could just go and no one even would notice, and then they'd be like, "Did he just take a baby?"
Yeah, because he went in, the guy that was with him said he just went to the backstage, grabbed the car seat that the baby was in, and walked
I
right
feel like
in.
that's something I would do. I could say I had to do something like that.
And nobody questioned it. It's like this teddy bear is in a strip club taking a baby.
Is anyone going to stop him? Just letting the teddy
but
bear.
but the guy that was with him was like, he was ready for a fight if it needed to happen.
Yeah.
The bouncer was the only one that kind of noticed him. They're usually at the door.
Yeah, they usually are paying more mindful of like who's coming in and out.
Yeah,
And, like,
and he kind of did a sir, like, because Dad just walked in.
Like you just gotta
he
go
didn't
in with
stop
confidence.
and say, hey.
Sometimes you just gotta go in confidence and just do it, and then come out like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
No one stops me because I already have the confidence to do it.
Because he just walked right by the bouncer, who was twice his size, and like before they went in, my dad said, "Now be prepared, just follow my lead, tell them who we are, and I'm just going to do it." And because he said, "I'm ready to tackle if I need to," right?
Yeah.
And so the guy ended up stopping at the bouncer, explaining who they were.
Yeah.
But the bouncer at first, he said, was just like, sir?
Wait, what's happening?
Because Dad just blew in right past
Like, all
him.
right, see you later.
It's just like, okay. So, yeah, and there are a few other stories about my dad that, where he was pretty fucking awesome, to be quite honest.
Badass.
He was a badass when he needed to be. But again, he had the teddy bear look about him.
Yeah.
So he could go in and disarm
very
people.
non-threatening look
Yes,
to him.
yes, exactly.
That must be what we have. We all have a very non-threatening look.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
So I'm not that far off with the panda bear thing.
I guess not. Because I don't think I look very threatening. Although I did tell someone, like, I have a pretty bad anger. And, like...
Well, we are berserkers.
We are berserkers. I don't think people realize that. Because I remember saying that to someone at work when I used to work at Best Buy. And, like, at Best Buy, I was, like, I'm very friendly. And they're like, well, it's always the quiet ones. They're really nice. And I'm like, they're like, you have to watch out for. They're like, it's not really how it is. It's
yeah, because people think that I can't be mean, but it's like, oh.
I can be, if someone's met me in the right moment, I can be a real.
Yeah.
I just choose not to be unless, like,
Yeah.
you've given me a reason to be. Because I'm like, well,
it takes too much effort to be mean all the time.
It takes too much effort to be mean all the time, and honestly, like, most people don't deserve it, and you have to give some people grace. But if you're like, I'm willing to give a lot of people grace on certain situations, but like,
well, you've even accused me. I see the better
you
in people,
often do. I feel,
and
like
I refuse to see the bad.
I feel, and I'm the opposite. I think I often see the bad first in people, but I'm willing.
Because when we were on the road, we were a good balance for that.
Yeah.
Because you could see the evilness.
I was just saying, she's a little
and you would warn me, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, no, they're not that bad. It's like, sure enough, their true colors would come out.
So it's like, they're awful. What are you talking about? But I also think I do it too much. Like, sometimes I will be like, well, they're awful. Everyone's awful.
Yeah.
People are terrible.
Yeah. So it's finding that balance.
It is finding the balance. I think I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But I also purposely don't interact with people, so.
Yeah, there you go.
You just avoid people, and you don't have to judge anything. We've told them everything but not talk about Valentine's, except for a little bit of romance.
So Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yes.
It's
this Friday.
This Friday, and I feel it puts a lot of pressure on people sometimes.
I guess, yeah, I think it depends on Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, a lot of people say it's become so commercialized, blah blah blah. Because originally it was the feast day of Saint Valentine. Now there's been many Valentines because it was a very popular name in Italy
Oh.
because it means like strong, worthy, and courageous or something like
Oh,
that,
okay.
right? Valentina or Valentino.
Valentine, Valen something.
Yeah. So
Valley.
the Saint Valentine that this feast day is for is he was martyred on February 14th by, well, they beat him and then they beheaded him. And they did it because he was marrying Christian couples. And this is in the day when they were throwing the Christians to the lions, where the Christians were very
Yeah.
persecuted. And
What an interesting day of love when a man was beaten and beheaded.
well, they said because he was the guy that was
He
marrying
was
couples.
marrying the couples. He was the one that was bringing them together.
Exactly,
In
exactly.
holy matrimony.
Yes, yes. So there's been a few, but this is the one we kind of celebrate on that day, and it's been since like 467. Don't write that in stone, but that we've
We're
been
writing it right now.
yeah, exactly, that we've been celebrating this feast day. Now it didn't always start out with let's give each other Valentine's.
It's obviously, as all things do, evolve, and I'm
Yes,
sure
yes.
there's reasons for it in history, and
Yes.
I'm sure there's all kinds of stories, or at least theories for why, or
Yeah, and it evolved because it was a day of love, because it was celebrating the
sacrifice. And
the sacrifice of that saint who helped couples that were in love to make their union solid, and you know, make that, you know,
viewable for the eyes of God,
sacrament of what, you know, I promise to be with you because I love you
forever and
and
ever and ever until I
through
beat
sickness
you
and
behead
health
you.
and all that stuff. And now, you know, like even the wedding vows have changed because it used to be you are now man and wife.
Yeah, I saw that recently in someone's video, and I was like, "That's a little dated."
Yeah, because now it's husband and wife, or husband and husband,
Yeah,
or wife and wife,
because, you know,
or whatever, right?
Women aren't property.
Yeah, yeah, and that, you know, we've talked about that, the wave of feminisms. The first wave was not being part of your husband's chattels,
Yes,
you know,
no.
because when you were his property, you couldn't even earn a paycheck. Your paycheck would be
Yeah.
written to your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And a lot of women of this day forget
Well, yeah,
that was the first wave.
There's a lot of things that are occurring, and people, I think more people are becoming slightly more aware of it in some ways because of everything that's happening in the States, and so much rollback on rights towards women,
Yeah.
which had taken so long. Because, like, a lot of the stuff that's happened, like, this is not that long. I don't think people realize it hasn't been that long.
But it's amazing how fast we forget.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why, you know, it's important to study and learn your history.
Yeah.
In a way so you can like, you know, appreciate what we have now. You know, the whole idea of like, so history doesn't repeat itself.
Well, and it's funny because you know, the Black Plague, for instance, when it first came to Europe,
Mm-hmm.
it wiped out like half of England, first of all.
Yeah.
50% of England.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. And Europe wasn't quite as high, but it was, you know, it's like
still
30 or 40, somewhere in
still
between there.
significant chunk of the...
Yeah, it's like that's a huge chunk of the population if you think about it.
It's a lot of people to lose at one time.
Exactly. And it would come about every 30 years.
I remember saying that would go in way. It was...
Yeah, and you know, when COVID first hit, we were all like, oh my God, COVID, you know, it's going to kill us all. We immediately went to...
I mean, it did kill a lot of us.
It did, but at the same time, you know, some people were trying to remind people, well, the Spanish flu was around in the early 1900s,
Mm-hmm.
and people were, you know, dying because of it. And you know, like, there's a lot of things we die of that we, you know, like, it's always taking everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Not going into panic mode. I understand because I was scared at the start of COVID.
I think everyone was, more so because it's just unknown.
It was unknown. We didn't know how to treat it yet.
Yeah.
And, you know...
We come from a very privileged age time where, you know, a lot of things that we could get sick with, we could figure out for the most part.
Yeah, because people still die of influenza and pneumonia.
Yeah.
Just not as much.
Yeah, and measles, of course, which are coming up because people haven't gotten their vaccination.
Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
But, like, you know.
But, like, you know, those two things are still happening, but we have better hygiene. We have things that can treat it and help it.
The
and
hospitals know what to do now. It's not like this unknown, oh, there's only this, or you're basically, you know, if you die from that, it's not as common.
No,
you still
and it
do.
is
There's still obviously a percentage, but
it's often like someone who is weaker,
who's
older people who are weaker,
children, like already people who probably have compromise. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be outliers.
Yes,
you know,
exceptions to every rule.
Exactly, but you know, typically speaking, as long as you're a relatively able-bodied, healthy person receiving the appropriate treatment at the right time.
Yeah, to help and aid your body in defeating.
Yeah,
it's like a little war happening in your body. But yeah, like back in the day, though, like you got the flu, you're done.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, she got the sniffles on Monday. She was dead by Friday.
Exactly. But, you know, again, it's like, I always jokingly say, we're cockroaches. You can't kill us. We've gone through a couple of ice ages. We've gone through plagues.
Yeah.
You know, we're still here.
We're still strong and still killing the planet. So
yeah. Exactly.
God knows what will be after that. But
yeah. Well, like I think it was you and I talking earlier in another one where we said, or I said, we should do a shutdown like every few years because Mother Nature seems to fix herself.
Well, after when COVID happened, sharks and whales were doing their normal pattern of things because there was less pollution in the water.
Plus, as North Americans, we need some holiday time.
Honestly.
Like, just shut us down in July and we'll come back in September.
I was going to say, if there was less focus on consumerism, which I think that was what happened a lot, there was a lot less focus on...
Because we couldn't get out to shop.
We couldn't go out to shop. It didn't mean that people didn't do shopping, but there was just like... I mean, there was pros and cons to the lockdown.
Yeah.
But the one positive, I think, was realizing, like, there's more to do than just going out to shop and buy stuff. Or constantly, like, going...
I got caught up in a lot of reading.
Yeah, well, me too, honestly.
Because I have a stack of books about yay big.
There's, like, a balance. I think there's a balance. Because some people I know suffered a lot during COVID.
Yeah.
Like, mentally and stuff. So,
yeah, for
there's
sure.
a balance to do it. But I think it's a good reminder of, like, we don't need to buy stuff. A lot of the byproduct of our stuff... Oh, I lost a heart.
She lost a heart. Well, there's a...
Slowly coming off my...
there's a spare one here.
My thing. Let's wonder if I can...
all right. Well, let's do the Reddit reaction.
We keep going on different things, and
we do.
We're tanging today.
We are.
I don't know if that's a technical term.
Tanging. It's the verb of tangent.
So I have a few. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend I didn't think she was the type of girl to want me to buy her stuff for Valentine's? Am I the asshole for doing nothing on Valentine's Day? Am I the asshole? Valentine's Day mishap. We know what that is. Am I the asshole for ditching my friend on Valentine's Day for a guy? Am I the asshole for making plans on my on Valentine's so I don't babysit my granddaughter? That might be a good one.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay.
Let's see.
That might be fitting for us. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the grandmother. If you couldn't tell.
And these are all the granddaughter's drawings.
Yes, this is their gallery.
Yes, this was for my birthday. Annabelle made that for me for my birthday.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
what's good artist?
Yeah, I know, right? And that's Annabelle's too, actually. I think all of it's Annabelle's right now. There is other stuff.
The Annabelle.
It's the Annabelle
showing.
Yeah. My 36F daughter, Leah, 17F, is a teen mom. That's hard.
That is hard.
My daughter got pregnant at 14.
Oh, jeez.
And it was very shocking news. I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
But we found out very early on, and she got to abort it. Okay. A few months later, she got pregnant again. And I couldn't handle the situation very well at the time. But having my sister, her aunt, talk to her about what she was planning to do, she decided to keep the baby, which I'll admit I wasn't very happy to hear, and told her she'll have to be responsible about the consequences. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, as a mother, I couldn't have her work and distract herself from school. I didn't want her to miss on her childhood, so I had to work night shifts to care for my granddaughter while Leah was in school. I realize that Leah has been taking advantage of my situation and making me cancel plans so I can babysit for her. Oh my god. I overheard her making plans for Valentine's 2 weeks ahead on the phone with someone saying, my mom will do it. She has no life anyways. And laughing afterward. Being a single mom and having to work multiple jobs was hard enough, but since she gave birth to her daughter, I haven't gone out to any party. I've canceled many weekend gatherings so that my daughter can be able to hang out with her friends. And if I did go, I'd always have my granddaughter with me, and for her to laugh about my situation like that angered me. That same day, I was asked by a guy I've been seeing to accompany him on Valentine's, and I was hesitant, but I just didn't want to miss the chance. He's a really nice guy. I haven't been on a date for almost 6 years. Holy.
Whoa.
And it wouldn't hurt to give my daughter a taste of motherhood when she at least accepted it. Well, I mean, she is the mother.
She is the mother.
I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
I told my daughter that I got asked out for Valentine's, and she was happy at first, but then asked if I was going to take her daughter with me. I said, obviously not, and she'll have to cancel plans for a day. I didn't expect her reaction to be so extreme. She cried, screamed, and told me I was being selfish. Oh my god. And that I was letting her miss on her date just because I thought a guy was interested in me. The argument didn't end very well. I stood my ground and went to that date, and she had to cancel plans. But she's still really mad about it and has been ignoring me. I love my daughter. I wouldn't want her to miss anything, but I want her to learn a lesson and be responsible. My sister agrees with me, but my friend told me I should have done it on a normal day, not on Valentine's. What the fuck? Does my approach make me an a-hole? I think both our reactions can clarify what we don't think.
No, it does not make you an asshole.
Holy.
At 17, you are selfish.
At 17, you are selfish.
However, this is a unique situation because now she's a mother.
She's a mother. She made the choice.
She made the choice.
She made the choice to become a mother.
Yeah.
And she's extremely privileged and fortunate that she has a mom who's willing to sacrifice for her daughter and her granddaughter to make sure that that she can still have the childhood she wants, so that they're both cared for. And that she's not sacrificing her ability to continue school, see her friends, but now it's almost made her daughter too privileged, too self-entitled, and
100%,
and also, like she said, abusing, kind of like taking advantage of her mom.
If she's laughing and joking, saying my mom doesn't have a life, therefore I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, like
it's like, no, you got to make your daughter stay home a few nights.
Yeah, at that point, I would be like, tough love. Here you are. Here's your kid.
Tough love. Yeah.
You're the mom now. You want to go out with your friends? Find a babysitter. Pay for them.
Yeah, or pay me for them.
Or pay me for it. And I know it'd be tough love now. You have to do stuff. You're a mom now.
Yeah, and you have to make sacrifices now. You're not going to have a social life.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's young at 17 to not have a social life. However, if she's getting the basic needs, she's getting her education.
Yeah.
And she's able to do her homework and all that kind of stuff. That's all she needs.
That's all she needs. And honestly, you can make it so like maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If you want to go out with a friend or have a weekend off.
Or even once a month, because let's face it, when you become a mother,
you don't get time off.
You don't get time off. It's a 24/7 job. And yes, I get you want your daughter to
still not lose out on her childhood, but she made the choice to do that.
She made
the choice.
That's
the choice that she
that's
made.
part
and
of being a
fair.
mom. You're not going to go out for the next month.
Yeah.
And next month you'll go out once that month too.
I was going to say, I rarely remember going, especially when the kids were really little.
Yeah.
We were fortunate. We had family around. We had, we have a lot of people that can watch the girls. So we were fortunate. But even still, it wasn't like, we still didn't go out like super crazy.
No. Or you brought them with you.
Yeah, we brought them with us a lot. The one time
because I did that with you. I took you with me. If I,
that's just what you could do.
Yeah.
I think,
Like when I went for lunch with a girlfriend, she knew I was bringing
Yeah,
you.
I was gonna say a lot of times if it was something like that, like the only time we had people watching the kids is if me and I had like a date planned, like
Yeah.
maybe we went out of town for like one night, and we'd always only go for one night. We never slept over. We
Yeah.
always like, okay, we're coming right back, even if it was like stupid late in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would be making a way to come home so
Yeah.
that we weren't away from the kids like too long.
Yeah, and not saying that this girl's doing overnight things.
No, no.
But clearly she's made a couple of mistakes.
Yeah. Well,
in judgment.
I was gonna say
Not mistakes in having the child or
no, a child's
producing
never
a child.
Mistake,
but she's made some choices that were not in her best interest.
Yeah, and if you're choosing to have if you do get pregnant and you make the choice to keep the kid,
mm-hmm.
especially when you're young,
mm-hmm.
you're making a choice and knowing, and it's hard to, I think, at that age to fully comprehend that choice.
Absolutely.
But you have to
because again, at 17, you're selfish.
Yeah. So
and she's got a built-in second mom with the grandmother.
Yeah.
And she doesn't realize how lucky she is.
I was gonna say a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think even when you're older, even when I had the kids at 26, you don't fully comprehend how much your life's going to change once you have kids.
Oh, yeah.
You do understand, oh, this is going to change.
In theory.
Yeah, you understand in theory
until
for
it's
sure.
really there.
Exactly. You understand, it's not always easy to be a parent. You understand the broad strokes. But it's a very different thing once you actually have the kid and you see it and you see exactly how your life changes.
Yes.
Because there are some aspects that you thought might change but don't change.
Yeah.
And there are parts that you thought weren't going to change that change drastically.
Yeah, yeah. And like you and I have talked about the first day we brought, the first day I brought you home, the first day you brought Lucy home, you're like, the hospital has entrusted me with this living thing.
Yeah. And
I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah. I just remember crying. I was just so tired.
So tired, overwhelmed.
In pain.
And sometimes there's a little guilt because people are like, oh, you've been so blessed, you're so lucky. And you know that in theory, but at the same time you're like, yes, but this is also a curse. They
won't stop crying.
Exactly. They get up every 2 hours for food.
Don't they want to sleep?
Exactly.
And why won't they eat properly? Just eat normal.
So I think that's a very basic, quick one, because the answer is you're not the asshole.
No, I can't.
I think, in fact, you should even rein in some of the things you've been doing and the sacrifices you've been making.
It sounds like almost in some ways, and this can happen when kids have
children.
When children have children. I always think about that all the time. When children are having children, they often become parent, the parent of them has to become the parent to their grandchild.
Yeah, because they're still parenting the child.
Exactly, and so
let alone the baby.
And so then oftentimes the mother and the child almost become more like siblings than that. Yeah. So if my kids ever came to me and were talking about I accidentally got pregnant, I keep the baby, I would never want to take their choice away, but I'd be like, it would be a very, I think, hard time as a parent, because I'm like, I don't want to parent another baby. I didn't sign up. I didn't make that choice. And
at the same time, a lot of people don't look at the adoption aspect of and I get it. It's hard to give up a child. I have given up a child. Mm-hmm. Two, in fact. They were twins.
We should specify that she hasn't gotten pregnant multiple times and given her. It was one pregnancy.
Two children. And it is the hardest thing. And I was 16 at the time when it happened, turning 17. And it was heart-wrenching. It was soul-crushing. But it was the best decision for me.
Yeah.
Because I would not have been able to have that capacity to be able to be the right mother.
Yeah.
And nor would I have probably met your father and had you and Marcel. That would have drastically changed my path.
Course of life.
Yeah. And
because she wouldn't be going out, people.
I wouldn't have been going out, that's for sure.
Not with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I probably, I didn't complete college, but I started it at least. And that wouldn't have even been a thing. I wouldn't have, I probably would have been stuck in some dead end job, just making ends
Yeah,
meet.
just try and, keep a roof over your head, kids fed.
Yeah, and I never wanted to visit on the children that I gave up, the anger of, like in that moment of anger when you want to blame somebody, I would never have wanted to rain that down on them.
Yeah.
And they went to great parents. They're doing great. They have families of their own. They're thriving. And, I feel like I was a decent mom to you and Marcel.
A joke, I joke.
But I would not have been able to be that kind of mother.
Had you had.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a hard thing to ask someone to do at 16. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel...
And so I'm coming to it with some experience.
Yeah.
I gave up because I knew it was the better choice for me and it was the better choice for the babies involved. And there are a lot of people out there that want children and can't have them.
Yeah, that's true.
So that they're gonna, like, your child's going to go to an amazing home, hopefully, and thrive.
Yeah.
And that to me is the ultimate love sacrifice.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I
feel... I don't know. I always told him, like, if we ever... Because there was one time after we had Annabelle, and I was like, oh, no, am I pregnant? And I was like, I don't want another kid. I was, like, ready to be like, nope, we're getting rid of it. Because, like, I told him, like, if I had a kid, I wouldn't... Especially because we already had kids. I mean, it'd be different if I didn't have kids already.
Right.
Like, I couldn't... Even if it was in best interest, I would be like, no, I'm just going to... I'll take the sacrifice. I'll keep the kid. So even if the kids had a kid and they chose, I don't know if I don't know if I could do adoption. I'd be like, well, no, they'll stay. I couldn't, like, I don't know. In my brain, I can't let it go. Maybe I'm just feeling, like, too attached. Like,
yeah, and I understand that attachment. Like I said, it was the hardest decision I had to make.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was being ripped out of me. But in the long run, it was the best decision both for me and for them.
Yeah.
And the parents that they went to had just lost a child.
Yeah, so it was good all around.
It was good all around.
I think there is definitely really positive situations in adoption. I think it's also, I'm feeling biased because I've heard so many, especially recently, so I think that's also my something, hearing, like, a lot of not good adoption stories.
Right.
So, and I mean, there's always going to be situations that are not good,
Yeah. And you're going to hear the bad ones before you hear the good ones.
Yeah.
The good ones you'll never hear about.
Yeah, the good ones you will hear a lot less about. And I know there are good situations.
Yeah.
But
it's the same thing with schizophrenia, right? A lot of people are scared of that disease because they only hear about the violent episodes that happen. But most people with schizophrenia are not violent, not a danger, that sort of thing. But you don't hear, well, this man, Joe Smith, is living on this street and he has schizophrenia and he's living a good life. That doesn't hit the news.
You're only hearing about the ones that just have
you hear about Sam, Sam White, who has lived on this street, who suddenly beat this woman in the streets or whatever. Yeah. That's what you're going to hear.
Yeah, like the violent or extreme situations.
Yeah, exactly. So same thing with, and that's why when you hear about, like, bad adoptions, bad reactions to medicine, you've got to take it with a grain of salt. Because first of all, it's very anecdotal. And second of all, you're only going to hear the bad stuff. Because, bad news spreads faster than good news.
That's true. But yeah, I would say that's why I hear a lot about, like, adoption trauma. Of course, even if you go to a very good home, even if you've had everything perfect, there's still, like, a lot of course, trauma in regards to being adopted. And there's a lot of
well, there can be, emotions. Especially if the family makes you feel that. Now, that being said, I have given up for adoption, and the man I married is adopted. And I've talked extensively with him because he's the other side. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, so how did it feel? And yes, he has his own trauma, but for other reasons, not because of adoption. And he was never, ever, ever made to feel like he was adopted. Yeah. And in fact, it was only other people that sometimes made it feel that way. Yeah. But, I'm like, well, this is the good side of adoption. Yeah. Right?
No, I definitely think there's good parts of it. But I think I'd personally just get rid of
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options, but it's either like get rid of or keep. You know,
That's true. A lot of people do
don't
go
even
one
put
or
that.
the other, not like there's other options.
Yeah. Yeah. And keeping is not always the right sacrifice.
I can agree with that. There's definitely good options.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there are a lot of people who are looking, although they make it very hard. I think that's a complex issue because you also think the
Like the way they
adoption
vet.
and foster system is broken. There's a lot of like issues in regards to that. And then because of that, there's a lot of issues with adoption. And then they make it really difficult for people to adopt. So there's lots of people who could be really good parents. And so it's just like,
but we met and a lot of surrogate moms too. Remember that group that we did things?
Yeah.
Like they were having a little get together and I did terrarium.
That was a really interesting experience.
That was an interesting experience because every woman there was a surrogate mom.
Yeah, there was like, wasn't there one that was currently pregnant or something?
I think so. Yeah. And yeah, it was really interesting because obviously there's a demand.
There's a huge,
because some woman, for whatever reason, can't get pregnant, whether it's them or their husband or partner.
Could be a health concern.
Yeah, exactly.
Too, just like physically for the person.
Yeah.
Like,
but obviously, if there's surrogacy to the point where there's 20 women that are getting together, there's a demand, so that adoption option is always open.
Yeah. Well, surrogacy is different than adoption, though.
It is, but at the same time, you're having a baby for someone else.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not like, oh, I'm having this baby and then I get to be a part of their lives.
No. Oh, I think it depends on the situation,
It does, but some of those surrogate women that I talk to, like, they've had 2 or 3.
My God, I don't know.
So you're not letting it go and then visiting all 3 different children or whatever.
That feels like
some women just, I mean, I loved being pregnant. And I didn't know about surrogacy, really, and I was like, I would have, like, when I met those women, I'm like, I would have totally been one of you if you,
had I known, or had I known, could have seen something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be a surrogate for a really good family friend or person, like if there was some reason, or like if for a reason my girls grew up and they couldn't for a reason they really wanted one. And I could, like, I was in physical health that I could, I would.
Right, yeah.
But I couldn't imagine just, like, or, Marcel, for some reason, he gets married and his partner couldn't, I would, like, surrogate for them or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't just be like, yeah, let's go do that. I didn't like being pregnant.
Okay.
Enjoy being pregnant.
Although, I loved being pregnant.
I recently learned, now, I haven't looked fully into this, but apparently the sperm has a lot to do with how your pregnancy goes. So it's Elena's fault that I didn't
there
like
you
being
go.
pregnant.
Yeah.
That was nauseous.
Sounds valid to me.
They also say a lot of the times when you lose if you have a miscarriage, within the first, I think 60 days or 90 days or something like that.
Yeah.
It might be less than that. Don't take anything I say for
Yeah, she's not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor, and I'm just trying to remember what I said. It's usually the sperm.
Okay.
Obviously I'm sure there's exceptions to anything, but it's typically the sperm that causes the issue for the miscarriage.
Well, I need to take a break, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's call this early.
Okay, sounds good.
We might do more Reddit reactions next week because it'll be the week after Valentine's Day.
It'll be the week after. I'm sure there'll be lots of
love issues and whatnot. So I hope you enjoyed this session. And have a great day.
Yeah, and have a good Valentine's as
well.
Happy
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
Remember, you are loved.
You are loved. Don't beat up anyone or behead them.
Exactly.